hello and welcome to the channel. My name is Dallas, and I need to thank the sponsor happypacks.com for this video, but I'll get to Happy Packs a little bit later. Well, I must admit I am a big fan of David Letterman. He's been a TV host, a TV personality, a weatherman one time, a comedian, a writer, a producer, and I have to admit, I met Mr. Letterman on one occasion. I traveled to New York to be an audience participant in one of his broadcasts, and that's where I picked up this souvenir shirt some 30 years ago. Now you need to know that Mr. Letterman and I are from the same parts of the world. We're both Hoosiers. He graduated high school in 1965 from Broad Ripple High School, and from there he went on to Ball State University up in Muncie, Indiana. In 1967, I graduated high school from Anderson, Indiana, about 30 miles up the road. And then for a short time, I too attended Ball State University. And Mr. Letterman can confirm that the local hangout, the local student center, was something called Tally Ho at that time. Then I got a letter from this guy stating, "Greetings, you have just been inducted into the United States military." So that's what I did for the next 4 years, 3 months, and 1 day. But that's another story. Well, while watching many of Mr. Letterman's broadcasts, he would often make the statement that he didn't understand how all that information could get inside a computer, that small little box, and it's all just ones and twos. Now, he made that statement to Bill Gates, president of Microsoft, about 25 years ago. And then 2 years ago, he's interviewing Melinda Gates, former spouse of Bill Gates, and about her work. And he said the same thing. Here's what he said.
God, something really simple. And he said, it's binary. And I said, yeah, And he said, it's all ones and twos. And an hour later, I thought I was going to have an aneurysm.
And it's zeros and ones.
Well, okay.
I'm sorry, just got to say it.
Well, see.
Sorry.
So maybe he's not the genius I thought. No, that's my mistake. This gives you an idea how much of this I was able to retain. It's zeros and ones. Zero and ones what?
Well, I got introduced to computers and programming right out of high school. But some 15 years later, the general public got introduced to the personal computer in about 1982. And during that time, we had the Sinclair, the Radio Shack TSR-80, the Commodore 64, the IBM PC, Compaq, Apple, the Osborne One, and the list never stops. There's still new hardware coming out all the time. Now, the one thing all these things had in common is they all use something called the binary numbering system. And I'm going to show you that in a minute. But before I can show you binary, we got to go back to the 3rd grade where you started learning arithmetic. Well, I need to thank the sponsor happypacks.com. If you're a driver, if you're an independent driver, a volunteer driver, if you're an Uber driver, or Lyft, or DoorDash, or FedEx Ground, or Amazon, if you're a driver and you need to keep track of your expenses and your income, that's what Happy Packs is. Happy Packs is a software tool for drivers. Now you can go to their website, happypacks.com. There is a free version you can download to see how it works. There's also a free training video. So thanks again, happypacks.com, for sponsoring this video. Now I am IT educated from a different university. So I'm going to explain all of this to Mr. Letterman. And if you are of our generation or you would like to know how these computers work, you can listen along. And if you learn something, hit the like button. That's what it's for. That'll tell the YouTube algorithm that we might want to send this video to other people who have similar interests.
Well, here we are in the third grade, and they started teaching us arithmetic in about the third grade, and they were teaching us something called the decimal numbering system. And the decimal numbering system had 10 symbols, 0 through 9, and the 0 does count. We called these symbols numbers. Decimal is a base 10 numbering system. And here's the units position: 10, 100, 1,000, 10,000, 100,000, a million, 10 million, and the numbers just keep going. What they forgot to mention is that decimal numbers are positional. Take any number, change its position, and its value changes. Here's a number: 403,269. Now I put the comma in there just because that's for humans. It's easier to read. But what this number is, it's 400,000, no tens, 3,000, 200s, 6 tens, 60, or 9 ones. That's the value of that number. If I change these numbers around, and what I did was I just swapped the 30 for the 03 and the 69 for the 96, this is a new value: 430,296. That's how the decimal system works. Now every time we went up a position, we added a 0. Here's 1, 0, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 100 million has 8 zeros. Well, it just keeps going. And what if you had a number that had 100 zeros behind it? What would you call that? Well, you already know its name. You just didn't know what it was. A number with 100 zeros is a Google. And the guys who came up with the Google search engine, they picked a great name because they're never going to run out of space using Google. Okay, so that's decimal. Binary works the very same way. Binary is a base 2 numbering system. Binary uses 2 symbols, 0 and 1, and the 0 counts. It holds a position, just like this 0 up here is holding this position. Binary numbers are positional, just like decimal numbers. Take any binary number, change its position, and its value changes. So, this is a base 2 numbering system. So it's 1 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, which is the very same thing we did up here. 1 times 10 times 10 times 10 times 10 times 10. Very same concept. Binary is a base 2 numbering system. So it's 1 times 2 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 times 2, and it just keeps going. Now watch this. A decimal 65, that would be 6 tens and 5 ones. This is the binary equivalent. So this is 164 and 1 1, that's 65. A 66 is 164 and 1 2 and no ones, that's 66. Here's 67. 164, 1 2 and 1 1, that's 67. 68, 164, 1 4. No 2s, no 1s. It just keeps going. 69, 164, 1 4, and 1 1. That's 69. It just keeps going. And this is how binary works. It works the same way as decimal. The 0 holds a position. Okay, so that's the numbering system. That's how it works. Now here's something else you need to learn. This is called, if we can get this to come up, there we go. This is called the ASCII table. This is the ASCII, A-S-C-I-I, American Standard Code for Information Interchange. Well, in about 1959, the telegraph industry, AT&T, American Telephone and Telegraph, Bell Telephone, Western Union, they needed to adopt a standard coding system. The table was called the U.S. ASCII table, the U.S. being the United States. The ASCII table listed all the control keys on a telegraph machine and all the keys on a standard typewriter. All the keys and the control symbols are represented from numbers 0 through 127. So this is the ASCII table. And if you look at this thing, it runs from 0 all the way to 127. And a 127 happens to be the delete key on a keyboard. If you look over here, the decimal 27 is the escape key on the keyboard. The space bar is a decimal 32. Now if you look here, here's all the punctuation that's on a keyboard. Here's the numbers 0 through 9. Over here is the alphabet in uppercase only. And over here is the U.S. alphabet in lowercase. This is called the ASCII table, and this is the standard table that these communication guys started using. This table, of course, is written for human beings to read, but the reason they needed this table was they were sending data down a wire. That's why they have this ASCII table. So how does this work? Well, here is the ASCII table. It just has the column that has the binary in it. Here's the characters. Here's uppercase, and over here is lowercase. Okay? So the character D is a decimal 68, and this is its binary value. If you go over here and look at this, there is the very same binary value. An A is a decimal 65, which is this guy right here. This is the 65, that's the binary. A V is an 86, that's the binary. Here's an E, that's a 69, here's the binary. You come over here, here's the E. Well, this is represented also horizontally. Here's the character, D, A, V, E. Here's the decimal, and here's the binary. And it's this information right here that gets stored in a computer, and it gets sent across the wires. Okay, so now you know about the numbering system. Now you know about the ASCII table. Now you know about the spelling. Well, here's the fun part. Here's how it works in a computer. And I'm going to use 1982 terminology and technology. Why 1982? Well, in 1982, all the components on a PC were connected to the processing unit with a wire. Everything had a wire. Components touched by a human know about the ASCII table. So here is a desktop PC. It has all of these components in it, and everything that communicated with a human, like the keyboard and the monitor and the printer, had pre-programmed into them electronically the ASCII table. The other devices, the floppy drive, the CD, the hard drive, the mouse, the speaker, they didn't have to worry about the ASCII table. So let's see how this works. Let's do an email example. So here we are, and the only thing we're going to have to use for this is we need a keyboard, we need the CPU, we need the computer, and we need the monitor. So let's type a message. So here I am sitting at a keyboard, and you're watching the same monitor I'm watching, and it's 40 years later. It's 2022. The technology is still the same. So I'm going to type a message, and I'm going to tap the letter I on the keyboard, and this may be a little noisy. This keyboard is not very quiet, but there's the I, but that's not, I want an uppercase I. I. Now what happens? I touch the I on the keyboard. It sent the binary equivalent. It knows what an I is. It knows what the conversion is in binary, and it sent that I down a wire to the computer, to the CPU. And the CPU said, well, what program is in charge right now? Well, it's an email program that's in charge. So email program, what do you want to do? Email program says, well, all right, I'll keep the I, but send it back on to the monitor so he can see it. And the monitor knows how to convert the binary that came from the keyboard through the CPU back to the monitor. I. So now what's going to happen next? They're all sitting here waiting on me. I'm the slowest device in the whole thing, but they're waiting on me. So my next character was the space bar. The keyboard knows about the space bar. It sent the binary to the CPU. The CPU said, what do you want to do with this? The email program said, well, I'll hold on to it, but send it out to the monitor so he can see it. So let's get the whole message typed, one character at a time, from the keyboard through the computer and back to the monitor. I'm going to do this in uppercase. Had a dog named Bob, period. So all of that information, one character at a time from the keyboard, is stored in this program and has been sent back to the monitor so we can see it. What's going to happen next? The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to touch the F9 key on the keyboard. That F9 happens to be a function key, because remember, back in this day, we didn't have a mouse. Everything had to be done on the keyboard. So I hit the F9 key. The keyboard says, I know what an F9 is. I'll send it to the email program. And are we going to echo it back to the monitor? No, we're not. An F9 is a send. So the email program says, well, let's do this. Let's take this message and let's send it to the communications device. And the communication device says, I got it, it's binary, I know what it is, and I'm going to send it out. I'm going to send it out the building down the telephone wire so that it's on its way. And what did it use to do that? The telephone system. Remember the guys who built the ASCII table? They built it because data is going down a wire, just like data was coming down this wire into the monitor. So here's what got sent down the wire. I had a dog named Bob, 22 characters. It sent an ASCII 1 in front of the message, start the heading. It sent an ASCII 2, start the text. Here is the text. Here's the I space HAD space A space. This is all 22 characters right here. And then it sent an ASCII 3 behind it to end the text, and then it sent an ASCII 4, end of transmission. Well, that's how this works. I know you've never received one, but back in the day, we had something called a telegram. And if you look at this, a telegraph machine received a message over the wires to print on paper tape in one long string. So here's the message printed on paper tape, all uppercase text, cut to size for the telegram. This is the true cut and paste. And this is a telegram. And that's how this works. Well, the email program is still running, so how do we get out of this? Well, we can go back to the keyboard, and I can touch the F5 key, which is a save key. So I touch F5 on the keyboard. It goes to the CPU. The email program is in charge. What do you want to do? He wants to save. Okay, so let's take the binary that we're saving and let's put it out on the hard drive. So it sends the binary code of this message to the hard drive. And it stays in binary. No need to convert it. Humans don't read hard drives, so let's just leave it in binary. And now it's out there. Well, what do we do next? Well, let's just tell the email program to quit. We'll hit the F11 key, and it's over. That's how this works.
Well, thanks for watching my video, and now you know how computers work. And if you didn't get it, watch it again, because it still works this way even after 50 years. If you learned something, hit the like button. That's what it's for. If you want to subscribe, you can do that too. I'm not exactly sure what my next video is going to be. I think my next video is going to be about fake news. But that's another story. Again, this is Dallas. Thanks for watching.